Emily, I think I'm really going to capitalize on this whole YouTube clickbait thing. For Dogtooth, I've actually taken out my dog tooth just to get some extra attention, maybe for the thumbnail or something.
Okay, A, we're doing Requiem first, and B, I don't think that's your dog tooth.
Well, it's... Well, now what?
The drug-induced utopias of 4 Coney Island people are shattered when their addictions run deep. Hi, welcome to WILIscredia's Who Would Like That? I'm Emily, CP isn't, and today we're covering Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream, as the title suggests, is a movie about 4 tragic figures who try to achieve their life ambitions through substance use and only fall deeper into despair. Unlike other so-called drug movies, this one is less about the evils of the drugs themselves and more about how fucked up society can be to those in dire straits. One could argue, however, that the film bears some similarities to the likes of Trainspotting, as it does show the dark descent of its characters due to drug use. Some would say the movie has only gained infamy over the course of time, which is why we're here. Director Darren Aronofsky chose to tackle this subject because he got to thinking, what even is a drug in terms of the effect it can have on your life? The dependency, addiction, the ruination of your former self. Hence, 3 of our leads are on heroin, and 1 is taking diet pills, amphetamines, in order to lose weight. Though the film did poorly at the box office, it did gain a cult following over the years, and even got Ellen Burstyn nominated 3 times for her utterly wrenching performance. Reportedly for this film, Darren Aronofsky had a couple of the actors going without sugar and sex to get them feeling suitably strung out in preparation for their roles.
You want no beef? You don't want no beef? You don't want no beef? You don't like?
Jared Leto himself took a method approach by slimming down for the role and researching the particulars of heroin addiction with people who'd experienced it.
How come you know so much, huh? How come you know more about medicine than a doctor?
Believe me, Ma, I know.
Allegedly researching, yeah, sure. The cinematography in this film is nothing if not interesting. Aronofsky has a number of tricks up his sleeve, with vanishing point shots, split screens which tend to emphasize emotional distance, long tracking shots of a young Tyrone running into his mother's arms. Many sequences in this movie have become famous through recreation and parody, in particular the first drug-taking montage with the flush of chemicals through the bloodstream, the dilated pupil, etc. Aronofsky likes his snappy montages, but more than that, much like the 90s music videos, not only is the movie shot well, but the editing is extremely flashy and engaging. Quite a juxtaposition considering the subject matter. In terms of our main 3, their drug of choice gets them high. But for Sarah, there's more of an outright psychosis involved, so her cinematography involves more stretching, warping, and playing with colors. Sound effects are used for emphasis. The sound of a cell door shutting over the opening title foreshadows the eventual incarceration of 2 characters. Sarah starts to sense the presence of her fridge. At first it's just her doomed-to-fail diet, making her obsessed with food, but later on the amphetamine psychosis makes her genuinely believe her fridge is going to eat her. But more than that, it just shows how certain drugs can really fuck with the chemistry of your brain, whether you are on them or just in need of them. The use of a leitmotif, in this case the orchestral song Lux Aeterna, reinforces the tone of the movie and reminds us that our character's misery only grows with time.
Let's do this right, man. Come on, baby. Naturally.
Oh, and for you Lord of the Rings fans, Lux Aeterna was in this first, and not epic. In terms of what's controversial in this movie, there's some nudity and scenes of forced prostitution as Marion sells herself for drug money. Particularly her asshole therapist gets his chance to slobber all over her, so that's fun. Marion finds herself stuck in a cycle of needing drugs to forget the horrible things she had to do to get the drugs in the first place. Scenes of drug use and the horrifying consequences thereof. Nightmare sequences, hospital scenes including Hollywood electroconvulsive therapy, which that's not how that works, guys. Necrosis of the arm, a little bit of surgery, so you could technically count that as gore. Honestly, there's just a lot of upsetting ideals and some very unsettling, potentially triggering scenes. Oh, and some good old-fashioned racism at the end. Yay! As well, there's a commentary of people taking advantage of the most downtrodden in our society. Sarah trusts her physician, who barely looks at his patient as he prescribes more and more diet pills. Tyrone is incarcerated and forced to do penal labor by, again, racist guards. The psychiatrist, as well as a pimp character played by Keith David, ruthlessly prey on vulnerable women. Doctors get Sarah to sign off on risky procedures when she can barely write her own name. This movie is just a vacuum for hope and optimism. As for who would like this, if you go to YouTube and look in the comments of any of the clips uploaded there, you will find people who say that Requiem de-glamorized hard drugs for them or gave them some kind of wake-up call. This is not to say that this is a movie only about drugs, but the way it humanizes its characters does far more to make a case for staying clean than any sanctimonious anti-drug PSA. To paraphrase Willie Russell, what makes something a tragedy rather than merely tragic is the inevitability of our character's downfall. Even if we could yell through the screen at these four people and tell them to stop, it just isn't that simple. I don't think anyone going into this has illusions of soft, fluffy times for anyone involved. There's a consistently dismal tone which builds and builds to the movie's climax. Yes. CP would call it a realistic yet brutally honest depiction of what drugs can do to people who have no idea what they're in for. And some viewers just don't want brutally honest. Thank you for watching this edited version of the video. I'm currently being directed by my husband, which probably means there's going to be outtakes and bloopers for his patrons, so be sure to check out this sort of stuff on his Patreon page, WILIscredia.
You forgot the store!
I forgot the store.
What, Friday?
No can do. I got an 8:30 res at Dorsia. Great sea urchin ceviche.